So I'm sizing some 6.5 Creedmoor cases for a friend of mine who fired these out of a Remington Action. These are going to be processed and made ready for him to load, get him into reloading. And just want to show the steps, a couple of the steps. Only thing I've done to them so far is I've lubed them. Now, what I just did is I neck sized only using the Lee Call It neck sizer. I want to do a full length sizing, however, so I've got the Redding body die in the next station. So I'll drive that up in there, size it, wait 2 seconds for spring back, and based on the datum measurement from a fired case, right now we're not doing any bump sizing. I don't want to overwork the brass. This is hopefully going to be used 10 or 15 times. However, it does chamber a semi-spec case gauge. This is what is it? Sheridan slotted gauge. It's not overly sized and it's not undersized, so it does should chamber smoothly still and provide a nice snug fit in the chamber. I'll work up some loads, probably using Reloader 16. And yeah, I'm not getting any bumping of the shoulder. So what I'll probably be doing is I'm going to reset the die and give it a 1 thou or 2 thou bump. These are all cellular and Bella cases. The ammo that they held was extremely consistent, extremely accurate for his rifle. And we're gonna make these work with some fresh bullets and powder. You know, normally I don't use a chamber gauge for precision rifle because your chamber is your case gauge. I don't have that rifle here because it's not my rifle. But I just want to establish a good baseline. Yeah, well, I'm at 0 bump. Not sure if it's visible. 0 bump. This is compared off of the fired case. And I'm gonna do the full gamut of quote unquote match processing. So that includes the primer pocket, what's it called? Not reaming because they're not crimped, but uniforming, primer pocket uniforming. And flash hole deburring. I'll be trimming, I'll be chamfering, deburring, cleaning, wet tumbling, and then I'll be annealing them. Yes, I know the annealing process normally is done before you size, but this is brand new, once fired brass. It's been annealed at the factory already. And since I'll be processing this brass from now on, there'll be freshly annealed right before seating, and the bullet seating, so we'll have consistent neck tension throughout. And I've always done that. I always want my brass to look really good. You know, you're spending so much time and money in this, might as well make it look good. And with the amp annealer, I get a perfect anneal every time. I'll be sacrificing one case during the analyze process for it. And then I'll take you on the whole journey through the process, through every step. Almost done with these. The next step, I'll be doing the primer pocket uniforming. I may do that after the wash. Actually, I think I will, but we'll see. I'll roll the video through the process. That's it. Now, as you notice, I'm pausing up in the body die for the body sizing, just in case there's any spring back on the brass, so that the brass is able to just flow within the confines of the die dimensions. Not that it really matters. I haven't noticed a difference. But try to do everything right. You know, all of this information is stolen off of different top shooter processes. I didn't come up with any of this, but full-length sizing for sure. I think I can agree with Eric Cortina is one of the top F-class shooters. He says, do the full-length sizing every time. That way you have the same dimensions on the brass every time. Because if you neck size only, eventually you'll have to full-length size because the brass will have grown so much that it won't chamber. So just full-length size every time. You're not wearing the brass out more than usual. Your primer pockets will blow out before your case splits from overworking, and since I anneal every single time it's fired, that's a moot point. The annealing is not done for longevity in this case. It's done for neck tension consistency. And with all my other brass, even in this caliber, the bullet seating is actually quite a pleasure because they all feel the same, exactly the same. And it's worked really well for me. Even though I'm not a competitive shooter, I do shoot a lot. And now for the last year and a half, I've been shooting long range. And I just forgot to body size that one. I think it was this. Yes. No, it wasn't this. So now I gotta find the one. There it is. See, I didn't body size this case because my brain stopped working because I'm talking, doing two things at once, which I don't do very well. So there we go. Now it's sized. And it's perfect. Again, for bolt actions, don't rely on a case gauge like I am now. You know, take a piece of brass, stick it in your rifle, see if it chambers smoothly with no resistance. But since I don't have the rifle with me, I will try it in my KRG Sodic in 6.5. Has a very tight chamber. If it chambers in that, it'll chamber just fine in the Remington. So, well, got like 20 more to go. Not gonna bore you with the whole process. See you next time. All right, folks. So yesterday I made a mistake, and I figured I'd do whatever I can to fix it today. It turns out that my body die for the body sizing wasn't screwed in all the way. I was getting some inconsistencies. There was not solid contact between the shell plate, the shell holder, and the die, and I also didn't have a good cam over. So I was wondering why I was seeing a 0 bump, 0 thousandths bump, positive 1 thousandths stretch, or negative 1.5 thousandths bump. So again, the objective is to go with 2 thousandths bump as a baseline and do that every time. So here's one case that I did yesterday, and I've got a positive 2 thousandths. So basically the body sizing die didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, it stretched slightly by 2 thousandths. Now it still fits the case gauge, it still will function just fine, but I want all of them to be the same. And since I'm getting a variation, this turret press also has a little bit of a turret wobble, which induces a little bit of inconsistency. So now that I have the die adjusted correctly, as you can see, it has full contact with the shell plate plus some, and I've already measured and done probably about 10 of them. All of them give me an exact 2 thousandths bump, which is what I was looking for. So I'll be redoing all of these with the new setting, and we're going to be good to go for the next one. I added the little shell kicker to make the process a little bit faster. I'm only doing one operation now, and I'll get going. So this one that measured 2 thou over should now be -2, because I set up the comparator on it's 1.5, 2, -2 thousandths. Let's see if that's visible or not. And again, that's what I wanted to go for, and I could have just said, nah, it's okay, it'll work, which it will, but we're still not over sized. Headspace is still good, it's still within the range, it's right at the min. So that's with a 2 thousandths bump. I'll go with that, and I'll run through a few of them. The case kicker here actually helps out because I can just run through them a bit quicker. And all those 10 that I did before, they all came out exact, with the exact same measurement. And it was eating at me all night, thinking, man, here I am making a video about it, and I'm not really practicing what I preach to myself. So that's all there is to it. The die was set to my previous, to my rifle, or a different chamber with the same caliber. Whether it moved since the last time I loaded a couple months ago, 6.5 Creedmoor, this die never left the turret. and it also wasn't loose. So goes to show you that every rifle is different. And this one here, I've just now set for my friend's rifle and his chamber to give a comfortable 2/1000 shoulder bump and a 3/1000 neck tension. 3/1000 neck tension neck sizing. Zoom in a little bit. Spot check. And then we've got -2000s. I'm using the Hornady comparator set with a D400 insert. The D400 is mainly used for .30 caliber, but I've done all of my comparing with the D400 insert. Gives it slightly better purchase, and I think it's pretty much exactly in the middle of the datum line. So I use D400, others use the 6.5 specific one, but again, I do all of them with this gauge. My numbers will not match up with others because of manufacturing tolerances, and that's just an arbitrary number that I use all the time. But in the end, it's still a 2/1000 bump, which is what I was after for a bolt action. A lot of semi-autos, even though these I'm pretty sure will work in a semi-auto gas gun. Most semi-autos are sized to like a between -5 and -0.008 of a bump. So I should go pretty fast now. It's important to check your dies, even if you've never touched it since the last setting. If nobody else is in the house, possibly changing it or touching it. And when you're going for precision, you basically do everything for your particular chamber. Pardon the noise, that's the spring steel against the ram making that grinding sound, but it helps with the productivity. This is an inline fabrication part that I ordered along with the stand and the quick change mount. You can make your own. You can make your own out of a hose clamp, stainless steel hose clamp. You can get it at the hardware store and rig it up that way. You set your shell plate sideways so it kicks it off onto that ramp. All right. Okay, I'm back. So the next step, after fixing all of these, perfect headspace now, perfect 2000s shoulder bump. I'm gonna go and uniform the pockets and uniform the primer pockets, sorry, and deburr the flash holes. The deburring happens from the inside of the case, and then the uniforming happens on the bottom of the pocket right there. So the depth of the pocket is consistent across the whole batch of brass. And then in the forming process, when they make the brass, they're usually either punched or drilled. These look to be drilled, which is good. A couple tools to do that. It's a manual process. You can motorize it, which I will since I have so many to do. This is the flash hole deburring tool, which is essentially a spot drill, I guess. But it's sized specifically to the flash hole and it gives a tiny little chamfer, and this is a case mouth stop, prevent you from just completely drilling out the flash hole, which is not what we're trying to do. So usually you will set it by putting the tool in. Make sure it focuses. Put the tool in, and I mean you could do this by hand. And right here there's a little bit of brass that has been cut out. But if you use the stop, you can then motorize it and do it safely so that you don't overdo it. This is set for a 308 right now, but I'm about to change that. So anyway, I'll set the stop off camera, and the next tool is for the uniforming, which is this carbide cutter. It's a flat cutter. Not sure if it's focusing. There it is. And this one happens to have a micrometer adjustment. I've set this to specific brand of primers, the Federal Gold Medal Match large rifle already. So it's probably what's going to be used. Actually, this is the small rifle primer. I have the other one for large rifle. Should be here somewhere. Yeah. Sorry about that. So this is the large rifle primer pocket uniforming tool. And the shape of that cutter has perfect 90-degree sides and perpendicular cut. So essentially you can go in, you can do it by hand, but I'm going to do it with the drill until you get a uniform depth. It hasn't done much cutting, but you can see where it started. Normally I chuck it up in one of these. You see, it's cut some of it. Not quite enough. I haven't hit the stop. So there it is. It's a uniform primer pocket. You only have to do this once with a new batch of brass. And then I would normally chuck this up in a drill. And I will remove the burrs from the inside of the flash hole. So some brass came out, and that's enough. You don't have to do much cutting. Not sure if that actually shows up. Maybe there. And that's it. Times 400 or 300, however many I have here. But again, that's only needed one time with new brass. I don't know if it's really needed, but might as well. And usually get a tray to catch the shavings. Yep, just like that, leaves a perfect primer pocket. So this essentially makes a nice little chamfer on the inside, so the primer, the flame front can actually propagate through the powder column. This tool is actually from 21st Century Shooting. They carry a lot of these specialized precision reloading tools and hand tools and net turning lathes and all kinds of shiny blingy things that make life easier and help you do a better job as a reloader. So this tool has been set, like I mentioned earlier, to the Federal Gold Medal match plus 3,000s, and it allows the anvil to be firmly pressed against the pocket face, It's worked out pretty well so far. I don't know if it's visible. Should get the test long and bore scope. Maybe I'll do that and see what the inside looks like. That's it. Till the next step. See you then. Here I've wet tin stainless steel tumbled the brass for 2 hours in a solution of brass juice and hot water. I've already separated the media in a rotary separator. So all the pins are out. Now I just take it inside, take this old towel, spread it out. Make sure you use an old towel that your wife is not going to kill you over for using, because it's going to turn green because of the copper in the brass. Lay it out. Gently dry it a little bit. Make a hammock. Careful, you don't want to drop any of this brass because it's already been sized and the necks are round. If it falls on the ground, you are going to be pissed off because your neck, it usually always falls on the neck for some odd reason, and you're going to get a dent in the neck. So just be careful with it. So just get most of the water off of it. The brass juice solution seems to have a water spot inhibitor anyway, but if you're using Dawn or Simple Green or something like that as your solution, the reason for using the citric acid, Let Me Shine, is for the water spots if you've got hard water. So anyway, I do it anyway. Get them as most of the surface water off, and I just take you over to the take a handful, put them on a food dehydrator. These are commonly found. They're pretty cheap. This was like 20 bucks. It has a bunch of trays. So just grab a few of them. Spread them out. You don't have to arrange them in any way. Just get them in one layer. Be careful not to drop your processed brass, because again, probably damage a neck. Turn it on, leave them there for an hour and a half, and that's it. It's pretty good. So let's get some light on here. So these came out pretty nice. I think inside is clean. Primer pockets, well, the primer pockets were clean because I uniformed them, so I made some cuts in it. So it's not representative. But usually the primer pockets come out pretty clean after 2 hours. Not that it matters, you just want the big chunks out. And yeah, that's it. We will anneal next. See you then. Okay, so now I'm ready to anneal. Since I haven't used this brass myself, I don't have a proper annealing code for this head stamp, which is the cellular bellow. I'm going to use the AMP Machines Aztec Analyze mode in order to sacrifice one case and have the machine tell me the optimum annealing settings for this head stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and go into it now. Aztec mode. I'm going to select Analyze. The pilot that I'm using is 017A, and that's specific to that's the pilot here. This is what sets the distance in the air gap for the case mouth. So 017 alpha. And then Analyze start. So I'll take one piece, set it in there, centered, hit start. So I got code 0154. This brass is now toast. As you can see, it's melted. So it brings it up to melting temperature, and this I'm going to discard. So this code, I'm going to write it down and keep it for future reference. I can also use this code in this session, but I need to make sure it's written down. So let's get my notebook. Okay. So now I can actually set to default to use. So I'm going to go ahead and use this code. Now that looks perfectly annealed. So now I'll do all of them this way. It's done. It takes about 3.5 seconds. So on and so forth. What I'll normally do is, since this counts how many you've done, I just separate them into batches of 100. And that way I know how many we have to work with. Keep waiting, but it doesn't take very long to do each one. Just keep doing that a few hundred times. This is a step that I do for every fired case for all my rifle brass. And it's meant for consistency of neck tension more so than any sort of brass longevity issues. Most people will use up their cases and blow out their primer pockets before case hardness becomes an issue anyway. So do everything the same every time. Okay, that's it. Here we are on the last step, which is trimming, chamfering, deburring of the cases. I've got a Giro cartridge case trimmer, powered case trimmer, and it'll take this brass, and once it's adjusted, you trim it to the trim length, which is usually listed in the manuals, 1.910 or thereabouts. We'll, at the same time, the cutting blade in this trimmer, we'll put a chamfer on it, and it will do the deburring on the outside as well. So those are normally 2 additional steps you'd have to do by hand. This thing does it all in one. So let's take a case and see. We're at 1.913. Really, we only need about 3 or 4 thousandths trimmed off of this. And we'll see what it takes us to. I'll just run through these really quick. It's just like a pencil sharpener. You put it in there, give it a twist, it comes out done. So we'll do that. So this is how it comes out. Chamfer on the inside and rounds off the outside, so there's no burrs or anything to catch. Let's see what we've got here. We're about 1,000th below trim length. So I could adjust this out just slightly, 1/8 of a turn, or I could leave it as is. Honestly, this is the setting I use, but since these are not for me, I'll go ahead and adjust it to make it according to book. In this case, it's just the shell holder that needs to be adjusted. Oh, it's on pretty tight. So let's see. this is enough. Alright, let's try another one. Well, what do you know? First try, got 1.9100 exactly. And that's it. I'll run through all of these. That will be the end of the process portion of this exercise. We'll do loading probably on a separate series. Consistent. I hope this was useful, and I want to thank you for watching. Till next time, be safe, shoot safe, and enjoy your hobby.